Welcome, hot rodders and Harley riders. This time on Hotbird 406, I'm going to show you the Hotbird. Stay tuned. It's been a while since I put a video up, and the name of our channel is Hotbird 406, so I thought for this episode I would show everybody the Hotbird. The Hotbird is a 1989 Pontiac Formula Firebird. The Hotbird was named by my daughter Ashley, which when I bought the car she was 1 year old, and when she got old enough to enjoy the car and know that it was a car and what it was about and ride in it, we always referred to it as the hot rod. She would say, "Where's Daddy at, Mommy?" And my wife would say, "Well, he's out working on the hot rod. And he's doing something with the hot rod. He's painting the hot rod. He's working the engine of the hot rod." And so she heard hot rod, hot rod, hot rod all the time. And then she found out that it's a Pontiac Firebird. So when she was about 6 years old, she put the two together, Firebird and hot rod. And so since then, it's always been called the Hotbird. So the channel is called Hotbird after the Firebird. The Firebird started its life when I bought it 18 years ago. It had a 350 in it, was supposed to have been a ZZ4 engine, but the only thing about that engine that was ZZ4 is the fact that it had 4-bolt mains. Aside from that, it was not a ZZ4. The person that I bought it off of threw every high-performance fuel injection accessory he could at the engine. It ran terrible. It did have a 6-speed put in it though, then that was done right. And the 9-bolt Borg-Warner rear end had 327 gears. The first thing I did, the second week that I had the car, was I ripped all the fuel injection off of it, put a fuel pressure regulator, and changed the distributor and carbureted it, and from that point on the car ran great. Other than the engine that was supposed to have been a rebuilt ZZ4 was on its last legs. When I finally pulled the engine out, the block was already 60 over, and the cylinder walls were terribly tapered. It burned oil like crazy. And so we built another 350 for it. And through the years, there had been some hassles. The engine ran pretty well. I put a very, very mild street cam in it. With the 6-speed and the 327 gears, the car got phenomenal mileage. I put gas in it, driving back and forth to work about once a month. And I wasn't hot rodding it, really tearing around on it. And one day at work, my windows were down, and one of the co-workers said, "Hey, it looks like it's going to rain, you better roll your windows up." So I started the car, listened to it run for a little bit, and through shorty headers and Flowmaster exhaust, ran the windows up, didn't think too much about it. It had the original Formula hood that had the cutout, was actually cut out. And with this air cleaner, it did rain. It poured the rain. And the rain went in the air cleaner and in the intake and in the number 7 cylinder that had the intake valve open. And I didn't know that. And after work, I tried to start the car and it hydrolocked and bent a connecting rod. So, needless to say, had to rebuild that engine again. When I did that, we put a pretty decent cam in it at that point, and the car ran really well. With the 6-speed, driving 60 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour on the highway, I could get 32 miles to the gallon. And that 350 was, it was probably somewhere between 450 horse, but it had a pretty lumpy cam in it. A set of Corvette aluminum heads that were ported and polished. And I ended up getting a soft cam that 8 lifters, and it went through the engine and pretty much destroyed it. So this time around, I've always been a big Pontiac fan, and I love the Pontiac 400s and 428s and 455s. So I wanted to build a small block 400 for the car, and so we did a 406. And that's where the 406 comes from, obviously, in our name, Hotbird 406, because we've got a Hotbird with a 406 in it. Right now, it's got a pretty nice street cam in it. We'll start the car for you a little bit later on in the video. So you can hear it idle. It runs really well, really stout. We're in the process of changing the rear axles to Moser axles. I want to keep the 9-bolt. We're also going to upgrade from 28 spline factory axles to 31 spline axles. It will give us a little more strength. The engine right now is about 550 horse. Not sure where the torque is. The way that it pulls, we timed it in the 8th mile, and it's running about high 10s right now. We've got the car lightened up quite a bit. If everything works good and it hooks well. So we're expecting to get possibly into the low 10s. We're going to make a cam change, and then a little bit later on we're going to go to the front here of the shop, and I'm going to show you some of the Go Fast goodies we have that when they come on sale, I buy them. And we've been setting them aside. But we're going to go around the car here and just show some of the things. The hood's an aftermarket Ram Air 4th gen style hood. And we're going to be changing to a cowl induction hood. The problem with this hood, this particular one, it's an early model, is this ridge right here, which you put any kind of a high rise or nitrous, anything on the carburetor, and I'm thinking about putting a fuel injection plate under the carburetor that helps with lean conditions when you're racing. You can lean your carb down for mileage on the street, driving on the street, and then when you race, that makes up the difference for it. But this ridge right here messes everything up. So just want to put a regular cowl induction hood. Thinking about maybe going with carbon fiber, I'm not sure yet, but to reduce some weight. We're trying to get the factory weight of the car is 33, 34. And I'd like to get the weight of the car down to 2,900, maybe 2,800 pounds. We're going to make some changes with cutting the metal out of the bumpers. The alternator is going to be moved over to this side. We're doing away with the power steering. I've got an aluminum water pump. We're going to put an electric drive motor on. I'm considering taking the heater core out completely. We took the air conditioning out and blocked it off. Considering taking out the heater core completely to save a little bit of weight. I don't know if it's worth it or not. We're going to move the battery to the back. The engine's going to come out this winter. I've got a tubular K-member we're going to show you back here against the wall. As soon as I get coilovers, we'll have Willwood brakes. We've got our pizza cutters here on the front. We've already dropped 200 pounds off the weight of the car with things we've cut out of it. We have lightweight racing bucket seats, and these really nice yellow and black seat covers, but I don't want to get dirty yet, so we're not putting them in. We've got finally our roll cage. There's the main hoop and halo, and the box over here on the floor's got all of the down tubes. I've got to decide if we're going to bring the roll cage through the dash and keep it, or just take it out and put a sheet metal dash in with digital gauges. The radio is going to go. I like the door panels. They're not real heavy, so I may keep them. We're putting Lexan side glass in. We're putting Lexan rear window glass. I like the 4th gen style spoiler on the back. It's fiberglass. It's very, very lightweight. As a matter of fact, it is way, way lighter than the factory spoiler. The factory spoiler, that rubber that cracks and gets all nasty, is very, very heavy compared to this one. We're going to probably put some kind of carpet in it because I like the carpet has some sound deadening to it, but we're going to cut out everything we don't need. The front and rear seats are going to be gone for sure. We have those. Over here, the seat belts, of course, the factory seat belts. We've already changed the panhard bar to an adjustable one. I'm not going to change the rear brake calipers, I don't think. I've got aluminums now with mechanical emergency brake, so I can still use the emergency brake if I want to. As far as lightening things up, I made the lower control arms. We may change those to adjustables as well as the torque arm, and that way I can preload the suspension a little bit. Here's the tubular K-member that we have to go into it. With the lower control arms, I just have to get the coilovers for it and the aluminum water pump. So our goal for the Hotbird is to eventually make it to drag week. I've been wanting to go to drag week for the past 6 years, and there's always something going on with the car. It's got to last a week, and I'm sure the engine will. There's not an issue with that, but with everything else. The car started off with the 6-speed here, which I still have, which is for sale if anybody wants it. It now has a 700R4 automatic with a 3500 stall lockup converter. So we can get out of the hole pretty good with it, and yet on the highway it cruises pretty docile. It'll run about 1800. Well, that was with the, it would run a little better than that with the 327 gears. We're switching over to 370 gears with the upgrades to the rear axle. I had put in Trans Am taillights instead of the Firebird taillights because they just look so much nicer. And that, coupled with the rear spoiler, looks really good. Once we get the tubular K-member in, I've got long tube stainless steel headers that are going to go in as well, and we're probably going to go with sound cones and side dumps on the exhaust, and then we'll reduce some weight that way too. But right now we're going to go to the front of the shop and show you some of the Go Fast goodies we have for it. We have some Go Fast goodies here for the Hotbird. A few things that I try to only buy parts when I get them on sale. I get a discount, use my Summit bucks at Summit Racing, or my emailed discounts from Jegs. I have here Harlan Sharp roller rockers. I've got roller rockers on it now. They're 1/6s. They're 1/5s. These are 1/6/5 to 1 ratio rockers, which will give us a little more cam lift out of the cam we have. I want to upgrade cams to a pretty lumpy cam, and if I do, I'll keep the 1/5s. I will not go to the 1/6/5s. I have stud girdle, which of course we need for the RPM. This is a Summit Stage 4 single plane intake with, you can see the amount of space there is in here in the flow. It's got the raised plenum. Now I'm running a dual plane intake manifold on the car right now. However, I machined the plenum divider out of it, so the dual plane intake has an open plenum, and even with the carburetor that's on it now, the 750 with that plenum open, and it's a dual plane, it's very responsive on the street, but it'll wind up to $7,000 as well. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. These types of manifolds are good for high RPM, but they don't do too good at the low range when you're cruising around. Of course, all you got to do is drop a gear and you got the RPMs up anyhow, but they're more for high RPM. It's kind of a knockoff of an Edelbrock, but it's kind of chintzy. The bosses here are weak and it's really rough. It's going to need work. However, the ports here match up with the intake manifold gasket, and they're really close. So aside from just a little bit of gasket matching, this is gonna run really, really well. I want to show you as well the 9-volt differential cover that I have, which has the cap supports here, the fill hole, the level hole, and the drain hole in it. You see, 9 volts. This will help make things a little more rigid. Oh, the new carburetor. Quick fuel carburetor with electric choke, which I may just cut that off completely. This is an 850 double pumper, so it's going to give us a lot more response, plus the tunability, the bleed jets that can be changed, the accelerator pump squirters can be changed. This already has a 50cc accelerator pump here on the secondary. It's got 4-corner idle adjust. So this is going to be a pretty nice addition to the car, especially when we upgrade the camshaft, and we need more airflow as well. All right, well, that's about it for the Go Fast goodies that I have here. I have a few other things, but it's nothing that's very important. In order to be able to race at drag week, there's some safety things that we have to do as well with the car, and we'll get those taken care of. But we're going to go back to the Hotbird, and I'm going to fire it up so you can hear it run. Well, let's fire up this beast, and I'll let you hear what she sounds like. Especially with the stall converter. Well, that's it for this episode of Hotbird 406. We hope you learned a little something about the car and what we do. Join us next time when you'll hear Gail say,
Jacob, I'm gonna hurt your father!
Till then, love God, love each other, love your ride.